Marcus Johnson stepped out of the sleek black car and adjusted his tailored navy suit, its fabric hugging his broad shoulders and tapering at the waist. He took a deep breath, inhaling the crisp air as he gazed up at the imposing glass facade of Stratton Enterprises. The building loomed tall and proud, a symbol of success and innovation in the tech industry, a place where dreams could become reality, or, as he was about to find out, where dreams could shatter in an instant. Today was his moment, his opportunity to pitch an innovative tech proposal that he had spent countless hours crafting. He felt a surge of excitement and anticipation coursing through him, ready to prove that he belonged among these titans of industry. As he made his way through the lobby, Marcus noticed the predominantly white faces around him. While he was used to being one of the few black professionals in such environments, today felt different. He held his head high, exuding confidence with each step, but the skeptical glances from the board members he passed made his stomach churn. It was as if they could see through him, questioning his presence in a space they deemed exclusive. Marcus shook off the feeling. Today was not about them. It was about his vision and the future he aimed to create. Approaching the boardroom, Marcus straightened his tie and rehearsed his opening lines in his mind. He could almost hear the applause of approval, the nods of recognition from the men and women seated around the polished conference table. But as he reached for the door, a security guard stepped in front of him, arms crossed and expression stern. "Excuse me, sir. Can I help you?" the guard asked, his tone clipped and disinterested. Marcus blinked, taken aback. "I'm here for the meeting with the board," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Marcus Johnson." The guard raised an eyebrow, his skepticism palpable. "I need to see some identification. You're not on the guest list." "Look, I've been scheduled to present today. I have the confirmation email right here," Marcus said, pulling out his phone and fumbling to find the message. The tension in the air thickened as the guard leaned over to inspect the screen, his expression unyielding. "I still need to verify," the guard insisted, tapping his earpiece. "I'll need to get someone to come down." As the guard turned away, Marcus felt the weight of stares from the board members behind the glass walls, their whispers drifting into the corridor. "Who does he think he is?" one woman murmured, her disapproving gaze fixed on him. Another member smirked, whispering something that made the others chuckle. Anger bubbled within Marcus, but he swallowed it down. He couldn't let them see him falter. Finally, the guard returned with a supervisor, a middle-aged man with graying hair and an air of authority. "Mr. Johnson?" the supervisor asked, his tone almost apologetic. "Sorry for the delay. They just wanted to ensure everything was in order." Marcus nodded, forcing a smile, though inside he seethed. "No problem. I understand the need for security," he replied, though the words fell hollow. With a wave of the supervisor's hand, Marcus was allowed to enter the boardroom. As he stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. The board members were seated, their expressions ranging from mild curiosity to overt disdain. Richard McAllister, the CEO, sat at the head of the table, his eyes narrowing as Marcus approached. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcus Johnson," he began, projecting his voice to fill the room. "I'm excited to present my proposal for—" Before he could finish, Richard interrupted, leaning back in his chair with an air of superiority. "I appreciate your enthusiasm, Marcus, but perhaps we should have a more suitable candidate present this idea. You know, someone with more experience in our industry." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. Humiliation flooded through him as he felt the eyes of the board members scrutinizing him, their whispers growing louder. "I assure you, my proposal brings a fresh perspective," he replied, his voice firm but laced with anger. "Fresh perspective doesn't always mean qualified," Richard retorted, a smirk playing on his lips. The board members exchanged knowing glances, and Marcus felt the sting of their judgment. He had worked tirelessly to prepare for this moment, and here he was, fighting not just for recognition, but for respect. As he stood in that boardroom, the weight of prejudice bore down on him, but he refused to let it crush his spirit. Today could mark the beginning of a new chapter. Today, he would not only fight for his proposal, but for his place in a world that sought to dismiss him. Marcus Johnson sat at a small table in the corner of the bustling cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the sweet scent of pastries. His fingers absently traced the rim of his cup as he stared out the window, lost in thought. The rejection from Stratton Enterprises played on repeat in his mind, a haunting reminder of the prejudice he had faced. Jamal, his best friend since childhood, slid into the seat across from him, breaking the spell of silence. "Hey man, you good?" Jamal asked, concern etched on his face. He had seen Marcus through thick and thin, and today was no different. "No, I'm not," Marcus replied, his voice low and heavy with emotion. "I've never felt so humiliated in my life." He leaned back in the chair, crossing his arms tightly over his chest. "They didn't even give me a chance. Just looked at me and saw, well, whatever they wanted to see, not the entrepreneur I am." Jamal nodded, his brow furrowing as he listened intently. "It was their loss, Marcus. You had a killer proposal. You know that, right?" He leaned forward, his elbows resting on the table. "You have the skills, the vision. Just because they couldn't see it doesn't mean it's not there." Marcus sighed, the weight of his dreams feeling heavier than ever. "It's not just about the proposal, Jamal. It's about what it represents. I've worked so hard to get to this point. I want to own a company like Stratton to show that we belong in these spaces." But now, his voice trailed off, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Jamal leaned back, contemplating. "Why not buy the company? Show them what you're made of? You've got the talent, and you'd be putting your money where your mouth is." Marcus raised an eyebrow, intrigued yet skeptical. "Buy Stratton? That's a huge leap, Jamal. I don't even know if I could raise the funds for a buyout." "Why not?" Jamal challenged. "You've been in the game long enough. You know the ins and outs. If you can pitch to them, you can pitch to investors. You just need to lay out a solid plan." A flicker of hope ignited in Marcus's chest as he considered the idea. "You think I could really do it?" "Absolutely. You have the vision, and you've got me to help. We can research their financials, find out where they're weak. Every company has vulnerabilities, Marcus. We just need to uncover them." Marcus straightened, his eyes narrowing with determination. "You're right. If I can show them that I can lead a company better than they can, that could change everything. It's not just about me. It's about proving that we can break these barriers." Jamal grinned, his enthusiasm infectious. "Exactly. And think about it. You could create a culture that values diversity and innovation. You could change lives, man. This is bigger than just a business deal." With each word, Marcus felt the chains of despair loosening. The thought of owning Stratton Enterprises transformed from a distant dream into a tangible goal. "Okay, let's do it. Let's start researching. I want to know everything about them. Financials, leadership style, market position. We'll build a case." "Now you're talking," Jamal exclaimed, his energy palpable. "We'll put together a strategy that highlights their weaknesses and positions you as the ideal leader." "You've got this, Marcus." The two friends spent the next few hours immersed in discussions, brainstorming ideas, and sketching out a preliminary plan on napkins littered across the table. As they delved deeper into the logistics, Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. "Jamal, you know what? This isn't just about revenge for what happened today. It's about creating a legacy," he said, his voice steady and resolute. "I want to build a company where everyone feels valued, where innovation comes from diverse perspectives." "Damn right," Jamal replied, raising his coffee cup in a mock toast. "Here's to building that legacy, one step at a time." As they clinked their cups together, a spark ignited within Marcus. He realized that this journey was not only about facing the prejudice he had encountered, but also about paving the way for future generations. With Jamal by his side, he felt ready to tackle the challenge ahead, one that could reshape not only his life, but the very fabric of the business world he aspired to conquer. Marcus Johnson stood in front of the imposing glass building that housed Stratton Enterprises, heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and determination. Months had passed since that humiliating day when he was barred from the boardroom, and he had channeled every ounce of that pain into preparation for this moment. Now, dressed in a sharp navy suit, he exuded confidence, but he knew the challenge ahead was monumental. Inside, the air was thick with tension as the board members gathered for what promised to be a pivotal meeting. Marcus had spent countless hours researching, strategizing, and securing investors who believed in his vision. The cacophony of murmurs faded as he stepped into the room, his heart racing. Richard McAllister, the CEO, sat at the head of the long, polished table, flanked by a panel of skeptical faces. The board members didn't mask their surprise at Marcus's presence, their expressions ranging from disbelief to disdain. "Mr. Johnson," Richard began, his tone dripping with condescension, "to what do we owe this surprise visit?" "I'm here to present a buyout offer for Stratton Enterprises," Marcus replied, his voice steady, though a storm brewed beneath the surface. He placed a sleek folder in front of him, thick with financial documents and projections that outlined his plan. The board members exchanged incredulous glances. "A buyout? From you?" Richard scoffed, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed. "You must be joking." Marcus took a deep breath, suppressing the anger that bubbled within him. "I've spent months researching this company, and I believe I can take it in a direction that aligns with the future of technology and innovation. Diversity is not just a buzzword, it's a catalyst for success. Stratton has the potential to lead in that regard." "Diversity?" Richard interrupted, his voice sharp. "What do you know about running a company like this? You were just here begging for a chance." "Begging?" Marcus echoed, his tone rising. "I was here to share a vision that you dismissed without a second thought. I spent my life preparing for this, and I have the backing of investors who see the value in my leadership." The room was silent, save for the sound of paper shuffling and the faint hum of the air conditioning. Richard's expression shifted from dismissive to defensive as he sensed the board beginning to lean into Marcus's argument. "Let's be real here," Richard said, his voice lowering. "You're not qualified to lead this company. You're an outsider looking in." Marcus leaned forward, the weight of his words hanging in the air. "I may be an outsider to you, Richard, but my experiences and my network are my strengths. I have built successful businesses, and I understand what it takes to innovate. Stratton needs fresh ideas, not the same old mindset that has kept it stagnant." A board member, Sarah, cleared her throat, her gaze fixed on Marcus. "What specific changes do you envision for the company under your leadership?" "First and foremost," Marcus began, "I would implement a comprehensive diversity and inclusion program. It's time to welcome voices from different backgrounds, ideas that come from a variety of experiences. That's how we'll truly innovate." "Sounds great in theory," Richard interjected, his tone laced with skepticism. "But how do you plan to ensure profitability?" "By being bold," Marcus stated emphatically. "By investing in technology that reflects our diverse clientele. By not shying away from challenges but facing them head-on. I have developed partnerships with tech innovators who are ready to work with us." The tension in the room escalated, and Richard's face turned ashen. "You think you can just waltz in here and take over? You have no understanding of our operations, our culture." Marcus stood tall, unwavering. "And that's exactly why it needs to change. You're stuck in a cycle that's preventing growth. I'm not here to take over. I'm here to transform this company into something that represents the future." As the debate continued, the board members whispered among themselves, weighing Marcus's words against Richard's animosity. Marcus felt a flicker of hope igniting within him as he realized that some were beginning to see the potential he saw. "Let's take a vote," Sarah suggested, breaking the tension. "We need to decide if we're willing to consider Marcus's proposal seriously." Richard's face darkened, and the atmosphere grew electric with anticipation as the board members prepared to weigh their options, caught in the throes of a decision that could alter the course of the company and Marcus's life forever. As the negotiations progressed, Marcus Johnson could feel the tension thickening in the air, a palpable weight that settled heavily on his shoulders. Richard McAllister's relentless hostility had reached a fever pitch, and with every word that spilled from the CEO's lips, Marcus felt the grounds of his credibility being eroded beneath him. "Let's not forget, Marcus," Richard began, his voice dripping with condescension. "This is a company built on years of tradition and excellence. It's not a playground for idealistic dreams." He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth, as if he had already won the battle. Marcus clenched his fists under the table, but he refused to let Richard's taunts rattle him. "With all due respect, Richard, innovation comes from challenging the status quo. If you're so attached to tradition, How do you explain the company's declining market share? His voice was steady, tinged with an authority that he had fought hard to earn. The room fell silent, board members exchanging glances as Richard's expression soured. Declining? That's a stretch. We're merely navigating through a competitive landscape. Richard shot back, his tone sharp, desperation creeping into his voice. You're navigating toward obsolescence, Marcus countered, his resolve strengthening. I'm not here to dismantle what's been built. I'm here to enhance it. My vision includes diversity, a fresh approach to innovation, and attracting a broader customer base. Isn't that what Stratton needs? He could see a few board members nodding, their skepticism beginning to wane. But Richard was relentless, leaning forward, his eyes narrowing. And what makes you think a newcomer like you can lead a company that has thrived under my guidance? You're just an imposter playing dress-up in a boardroom. Marcus felt a fire ignite within him, his pulse quickening. I'm not an imposter, Richard. I'm a man who has worked tirelessly to get here, just as you have. But unlike you, I understand the value of inclusion and the power it brings to a team. You may have built this company, but it's time for a new era. At that moment, a voice broke through the tension. I think Marcus has a point, said Jenna, a mid-level executive who had remained quiet until now. Her tone was firm, and she looked at the board with a newfound courage. We've been stagnant for too long. It's time we embrace change. Richard's eyes widened in disbelief, and for the first time, he seemed genuinely rattled. Jenna, you can't be serious. You're going to side with this outsider? Yes, I am, Jenna replied, her voice steady. I've seen how you dismiss new ideas, how you ignore valuable input from diverse voices. We need someone who can lead us into the future, not someone who clings to outdated ideals. As Marcus absorbed this unexpected support, he felt a wave of hope wash over him. Maybe this battle was not as one-sided as it had seemed. Thank you, Jenna, he said softly, acknowledging her courage. If we can unite as a team, we can redefine what Stratton Enterprises stands for. The room buzzed with a mix of surprise and unrest, the dynamics shifting as whispers rippled through the board. Richard's face darkened, his control slipping away. This is insubordination, he spat, clearly struggling to maintain his authority. Is it insubordination to advocate for a better future? Marcus challenged, his voice rising with passion. We can't afford to ignore the changing landscape of our industry. Look at our competitors. They're thriving because they embrace diversity. Stratton has the potential to lead, but only if we're willing to adapt. As the discussion unfolded, Marcus felt the tide turning. More members began to voice their agreement, sharing personal anecdotes about the challenges they faced under Richard's leadership. While Richard's demeanor grew increasingly defensive, Marcus focused on the potential of their united front. Then, in a moment of inspiration, Marcus recalled something he had discovered during his research on the company's past. I've come across some troubling information regarding the company's financial practices, he said, his voice low and measured, drawing the board's attention back to him. There are discrepancies in the reports that suggest something isn't right. If we're going to move forward, we need to address these issues head-on. Richard's eyes flared with anger, but Marcus pressed on. If we're going to build a new foundation for Stratton, we cannot ignore the past. Transparency and integrity must be at the forefront of our new vision. As the room filled with murmurs of concern, Marcus could see the realization dawning on the board members. The very fabric of their loyalty to Richard was beginning to fray, and he seized the moment. Let's not allow fear to govern our decisions. We owe it to ourselves, our employees, and the future of this company to confront what lies beneath the surface. In that charged atmosphere, with Richard's authority crumbling, Marcus knew he was on the brink of a monumental shift. The battle was far from over, but he had taken a significant step toward not just reclaiming his place at the table, but also towards initiating a transformation that would ripple through the very core of Stratton Enterprises. Marcus stood tall at the head of the boardroom table, the weight of the evidence in his hands. The atmosphere crackled with tension as he faced Richard McAllister, the man who had tried to belittle him at every turn. Board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their eyes darting between Marcus and Richard anticipating the storm that was about to unfold. "Gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice steady and authoritative, "today, we cannot ignore the truth any longer. I have gathered substantial evidence that compromises not only Richard's integrity, but also the very values this company claims to uphold." He held up a folder brimming with documents, emails, and testimonies that painted a grim picture of discrimination and unethical practices. Richard's face turned a shade paler, his jaw clenched tight. "This is absurd," he spat, cutting Marcus off. "You're just a desperate man trying to undermine my leadership because you think you can take over this company. You're nothing but an imposter." Marcus took a deep breath, refusing to allow Richard's words to rattle him. "An imposter? I'm the one who has worked tirelessly to prove my worth. I'm here because I believe in this company and its potential, but your actions have jeopardized that potential." Richard leaned forward, a sneer curling his lips. "You think you can come in here and demand change? You're out of your depth, Marcus. You've never run a company before, let alone one as prestigious as Stratton Enterprises." The board members exchanged uncertain glances. Some shifted their chairs, clearly uncomfortable with Richard's aggressive demeanor. Marcus pressed on, undeterred. "I'm not here to just take over. I'm here to lead with integrity. Look around you. How many of you have seen the same issues I'm raising? Silence won't protect this company any longer." Just then, a voice broke through the tension. "I've seen it," said Lisa, a junior board member who had remained quiet until now. "I'm not afraid to speak up. Richard has fostered an environment where discrimination is overlooked, and the few of us who've raised concerns were dismissed or punished." Marcus felt a surge of hope as more voices began to join Lisa's. "I've experienced it too," chimed in Mark, another board member. "The favoritism, the lack of opportunity for minorities, it's time for change." Richard's face reddened with anger, his eyes darting around the room, searching for allies. "You're all being led astray by this charade," he growled. "Marcus is using you all." "Enough," shouted another board member, Matt, slamming his fist on the table. "This isn't just about Marcus anymore. It's about all of us and the future of this company. We can't ignore what's been happening right under our noses." The atmosphere in the room shifted palpably as the collective resolve of Marcus's supporters began to outweigh Richard's bluster. Marcus seized the moment, his voice rising above the din. "This is our opportunity to redefine what Stratton Enterprises stands for. We can be a beacon of diversity and innovation, but it starts with accountability. We owe it to ourselves and to the employees who have been silenced for too long." Richard's composure cracked further as he realized he was losing the battle. He attempted to regain control, but the tide had turned. The board members were no longer intimidated by him. Instead, they were energized by Marcus's vision. "Let's not forget," Marcus added, his tone calm but firm. "The employees out there are watching how we respond to this. If we choose to uphold a culture of silence and complicity, we are complicit in perpetuating the very issues we claim to abhor." A murmur of agreement swept through the room. Board members nodded, some even whispering affirmations. Richard's face twisted in disbelief, and for the first time, he seemed genuinely vulnerable. "I will not stand idly by while you paint me as the villain," Richard barked, desperation creeping into his voice. "You'll regret this, Marcus." But Marcus refused to back down. "This isn't about revenge. It's about creating a better future for everyone involved. We owe it to ourselves, to our employees, and to the legacy of this company." As the board continued to debate, Marcus glanced around the room, feeling a swell of solidarity. He had come a long way from that first meeting where he had been dismissed and belittled. Now, he stood at the precipice of change, ready to fight for a vision that went far beyond his own ambitions. "Let's take a vote," someone proposed, and the room quieted in anticipation. Marcus knew the outcome would define the future of Stratton Enterprises. The stakes had never been higher, and with every heartbeat, he felt the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. Would they choose to embrace change or cling to the past? Only time would tell, but for now, he had ignited a fire that could not be easily extinguished. The atmosphere in the boardroom was electric, charged with a mix of anticipation and anxiety as the final decision loomed. Marcus Johnson sat at the head of the long, polished mahogany table, flanked by supportive board members who had been swayed by his vision for Stratton Enterprises. After weeks of investigation, the board was ready to confront the scandal that had engulfed the company. The faces of the board members reflected a range of emotions. Some wore resolute expressions, while others appeared deeply conflicted. Richard McAllister, the former CEO, sat at the opposite end, his face twisted in a scowl. He had fought tooth and nail against Marcus's buyout proposal, but now, facing the undeniable evidence of his misconduct, his bravado was crumbling. The room was filled with hushed whispers as the board chair, Evelyn Sanders, cleared her throat, preparing to announce the findings. After a thorough investigation into the allegations against Mr. McAllister, we have found substantial evidence of unethical practices and discrimination. Evelyn began, her voice steady but firm. As a result, we have no choice but to suspend him indefinitely. The board will now vote on Mr. Johnson's buyout proposal. Marcus felt a rush of adrenaline, his heart racing. This was the moment he had worked so hard for, the culmination of his struggle against prejudice and injustice. He glanced over at Jamal, who was seated nearby, his expression a mix of pride and hope. The vote was swift. Board members raised their hands in favor of Marcus's proposal, and the count was overwhelmingly in support. "Congratulations, Marcus," Evelyn announced, a smile breaking through her professional demeanor. "You are now the new CEO of Stratton Enterprises." A wave of applause erupted around the boardroom, echoing off the walls, and Marcus stood, momentarily overwhelmed by the magnitude of his achievement. He felt the weight of history pressing down on him, a testament to the resilience and determination that had brought him to this moment. Clearing his throat, he addressed the board and the gathered employees, who had witnessed the tumultuous journey unfold. "Thank you all for your trust and support," Marcus began, his voice steady. "This is not just a victory for me, but for everyone who believes in a more equitable future. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but together, we can reshape the culture of this company. Diversity and inclusion will be at the forefront of our mission. We will create an environment where everyone feels valued and heard." The room erupted in another round of applause, and a sense of unity began to blossom among the attendees. Marcus could see the palpable excitement on the faces of his new team, many of whom had long felt marginalized under Richard's leadership. As the meeting concluded, Marcus felt a mixture of elation and responsibility. He stepped out of the boardroom and into the expansive office space filled with natural light. Glancing out over the skyline, he reflected on his journey, the rejection, the fight, and the eventual triumph. He had not only proven his worth, but had also dismantled a system that had tried to hold him back. In the days that followed, Marcus worked tirelessly to build a diverse team that mirrored the community outside the company's walls. He initiated programs aimed at fostering talent from underrepresented backgrounds and established mentorship opportunities for aspiring entrepreneurs. Striving to create a culture of collaboration and respect, he knew that the future of Stratton Enterprises depended on its ability to innovate and embrace diversity. As he stood in his office one afternoon, looking out at the bustling city below, Marcus felt a profound sense of gratitude. The journey had been fraught with challenges, but it had also been marked by incredible support from friends, family, and allies within the company. He had turned a painful experience of discrimination into a powerful catalyst for change, paving the way for others to follow. Meanwhile, Richard McAllister faced the repercussions of his actions, now embroiled in legal battles and public scrutiny. The weight of his downfall served as a stark reminder of the cost of prejudice and the importance of accountability. Marcus smiled, knowing that his own story was just beginning. With renewed hope and determination, he embraced the challenges ahead, ready to lead Stratton Enterprises into a future defined by innovation, inclusivity, and success. The journey had tested him, but it had also transformed him into a leader who understood the true value of resilience and the strength found in diversity.